Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the WE Roxi 3, which is, in my opinion, probably the best version of this to date. So I'm really excited about this. We're going to talk all about it. I have no idea if this is available or not. I will link this knife right down in the description. Depending on when you're watching this video, it may or may not be available. So it'll be linked right down there if you want to check it out. Thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife real quick. Overall length of the Roxi 3, which by the way is by Todd Knife and Tool. That's a member of our own YouTube community here. So that's very cool, but I think most people know that by now. Overall length coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. Blade length about 3 1/8, maybe just a little bit. Yeah, it's about 3 1/8. Cutting edge about 2.75, 2.85 inches overall. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons here up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and its little brother, the Ontario Rat Model 2. This guy's closer in overall length to the Rat 2, but it's a much more... The knife has much more presence, which is my default way of saying that. It sounds very pretentious, and the knife has much more presence. Up against the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3, definitely closer to the size of the Para 3. But again, it's just a heavier, chunkier knife, right? Last but not least, where is it? There it is. The Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and its little brother, well, in this case, it's not actually the little brother. It's just the smaller version of the knife, the smaller knife in the comparison. Shut up! The Benchmade Bug Out. So there you go. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So let's put the Roxi 3 up against the Spyderco Para 3, and you can see here, yeah, I said chunky, but it's really not that much thicker. It's just, let's get it right flush. It's just slightly thicker than the Spyderco Para 3. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. You can see here, this knife is still, it's shorter actually. Now, yeah, ever so slightly shorter than the Spyderco Para 3, definitely shorter than the PM2. Maximum height, it's almost as high as the Para 3, that bump right there, but the Para 3 is still going to be, Para 3 and PM2 is still going to be a bit taller. Materials, what are we looking at here? We are looking at S35VN. Can we see it? There it is, S35VN. And then we're looking at titanium with titanium hardware and a titanium clip. It's S35VN. Why didn't they go with 20CV/M390? Because those are more premium steels, and I feel like I am getting a better deal with those premium steels. I have done a video on the whole steel thing, and listen, I myself have made that odd mistake, right? Where we just automatically place certain steel compositions in the category of premium, and then as things become less popular, we place older steels in the whole less premium category. Now, obviously, this knife, it wouldn't make sense if they were to put something like 440C on it and charge over $200 for it, right? Quick rant here. After finding out the difference in cost, as far as like from a manufacturer's perspective, when they buy a steel like CPM S35VN or CPM 20CV, which is an analog to M390, when they buy that steel from Crucible, the difference in cost for them is very minimal. And let's not forget, we have absolutely seen knives that cost less than $100 in CPM 20CV. So if your brain is attached to the idea that CPM 20CV is universally more premium or universally better than steels like S35VN, I would say no, and also that's not really how we should look at it. It might cost a little teeny tiny bit less to purchase S35VN, but in order to process it and turn it into a knife, right, those extra costs, the knife's final form, so to speak, right, there's a lot more to consider than just the difference between S35VN and M390. As far as arenas of compositions go, right, we certainly have budget steels, mid-range steels, and premium steels. S35VN is still a premium steel, and in my opinion, is more than welcome in this price tier. Some people will make better use of a more stainless steel with higher edge retention like CPM 20CV, but if you value higher toughness and better ease of sharpening in your steels, and you still like good edge retention and good amounts of corrosion resistance, S35VN might actually be more valuable to some people. So I would ask you to consider that before we start, complaining by default that it's not 20 CV. Anyways, let's go ahead and do a hardware check. Get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the description where I talk about my tools. The pivot is going to be a T8. The lock bar insert screw is a T8. The LBS disc is a T8. And I think all the body screws are T8. I think even the pocket clip screws are a T8. Yeah, that's great. Very nice. WE generally does that, so I'm really happy there. Not always, but they usually do. Or at least it's not WE. It's Todd Knife and Tool who selected that fastener size. So that's really nice. Very cool. Very happy with that. Fairly minimal hardware. I mean, yeah, if you want, if you're going to disassemble a knife, you don't need to take all this stuff out. Just the pocket clip screws. No, not even the pocket clip screws. Just the screws on either side of the frame and the pivot, and you're good to go. So that's nice. Let's go ahead and do a measurement of blade stock thickness here. Where? How? Oh, there they are. Calipers. Oh my God. There we go. Okay. I'm going to guess that this is about 155 thousandths. Yeah. I see that thickness a lot in knives like this from WE. So it says 156. I'm sure it's 155 and my calipers are just wrong. So there you go. Weight. We have no milling on the inside of the titanium here. Can we see? Can you see in there? Yeah. Nothing on this side and nothing on this side. It's all solid titanium, which is fine. This is kind of a beefy knife, right? Shaving off 1/3 of an ounce with titanium milling. I'm not sure if that really matters to a lot. Maybe it does. I don't know. This knife doesn't weigh that much to begin with, 4.23 ounces. But the ratios, it's really not that much weight, right? I mean, yeah, like if it weighed less, would that be cool? I guess. Like for me, 4.23 ounces, I don't care. This is on the lower end as far as like the knives that I carry personally, and do with this information what you will. Personally, I carry knives that are this weight or higher usually, or heavier. So I don't really care. But if you're wearing athletic shorts, this probably isn't the right knife for you. Really tight pants, probably not the right knife for you. Jeans, cargo shorts, right? Regular, if you're wearing a normal pant material, you're probably going to be okay. Just make sure it's legal where you are, where you live. All right, so let's talk about this thing. So I handled a couple different versions of the Roxi. I handled a gigantic one. I think there's 2 larger ones, maybe. I think there's even a Roxi 4. And I'm confused about the timeline of the release of the Roxis because I thought the 3 was the newest and I saw there was a 4. I don't know. Maybe I'm just behind, right? Out of the ones that I've handled a little tiny, like the little tanky short one, and it's all right. It's just it's a little too short, and it makes me. The design has some angular spots, and the shorter one really emphasizes those. The bigger one that I handled is really cool, but it's freaking huge, right? This is a Goldilocks, right? How clever. He used a Goldilocks analogy. This one's too big, and this one's too small. But this one's just right, like the story of Goldilocks. My God. Anyways, yeah, this one seems to be the right size for my hand. I actually enjoy that quite a bit. This is very comfortable. The pocket clip, despite looking like something that should not ever interact with the human hand, I can't really, truthfully, I can't really feel it. This is plenty comfortable. Pretty easy to disengage. This area in here is a bit angular. I'm not going to call it sharp, right? But engaging it, disengaging it, right? This is a pretty comfortable, pretty straightforward experience. Flicking it out or wheeling it out, right? If you want to flick it out with your thumb, or you want to get fancy, put some sauce on it and front flip it, right? It's up to you, however you want to do that, right? It's got some sharp angles here or there, and it's got some pretty aggressive jimping, but it's not the worst, as far as like the sharpness of the edges, it's not the worst thing in the whole world. If you're going to use a knife like this for an extended period of time, continuous cutting, right, wear gloves. For general EDC, you're probably going to, like if you get it out once a day to just make a quick cut, it's not like you're going to be like, Oh, ow, oh, ouch. This one cut I'm doing is just terrible on my hands. Like, if your hands are made of tapioca pudding, then maybe not, right? But why is he getting so aggressive about this? He doesn't do this in other reviews. I don't know. I'm just feeling spicy today, right? For the 1 or 2 cuts that you might make throughout the day, if you're just going to EDC this, then you're going to be okay. If you're going to use your head is what I'm saying. Wear gloves if you're going to, use a knife like this for an extended period of time. Ergonomics, fairly comfortable. Not the best thing in the whole world. It's certainly not a hand melting experience, but pretty good. I love the blade. I love this fuller that's run through it. It's not like it's, necessary. You can use it to get a bit lower and do your reverse flick. You have to really have some force in your finger to be able to do that, but you can if you want to. You can also use it to kind of pinch open, or I suppose it's just an easy way to get a hold of the blade and open it. Not that it's necessary. The detent's not that strong. I think really, it looks the best. Just I caught the the tip, and it's a good thing this is synthetic material, but it really just has this nice aesthetic presence. It looks good on the blade. I like it. This is I'm going to call this a Wharncliffe, right? I love Wharncliffes for EDC. Nice straight edge, draw cuts, or digging into packages. It's great. It's not the thinnest thing. It actually does get pretty darn thin, right? But it just, the feeling of it, I'm actually going to run this across a piece of paper real quick just to kind of get, the paper cut test doesn't prove a whole lot, but I just like to see how it's kind of what I thought. There's it's slicing, but you can see there the paper at the edge is just fraying upwardly. You see how the bottom of this cut right here in the middle, that paper is just sort of ever so slightly fraying upwards. It's slicing, but it's also tearing just a bit. It's okay. It's just, kind of a medium thickness behind the edge geometry there. So it's all right, but the edge is sharpened nicely, right? It's got a little bit of stickiness and bitiness to it, so it's all right. Plenty good for what most people will use it for. This blade has like a very dark, it looks like it's bead blasted, but I don't think so. I think it's just a very, very dark tumbling. Maybe I don't know. They've darkened it up somehow. It looks really, they've got different flavors, different options available to you. Not a whole lot, but what I appreciate here is that we have the flame work, which I think looks nice. Not everybody's going to like that, right? That's fine. And then I also appreciate the contrast with the anodized hardware. Another thing that I appreciate is the 3D milled clip. This is all stuff, guys, that's much more important to me than, obviously I'm going to choose my, like if I'm going to pay money for a knife, I am going to consider the materials. And whenever I talk about steels, people seem to sort of throw this black and white, idea at it where it's like, he's saying that we shouldn't care about steel. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, like, me personally, I'm going to go, well, I have a list of steels that are generally acceptable at a certain price range for me, right? M390 is definitely one of them. I'm not going to shy away from S35VN. I also like S45VN. I kind of tend to, like stainless steels, but I also like some of the non-stainless stuff, right? But what's much more important to me for the money is that one of those steels, relatively speaking, it depends on what I'm going to use it for, but one of those steels, relatively speaking, is, that's on the knife. But then I really want to consider, like, how much is going into the creation of this, right? We're getting some interesting milling lines here that I think look pretty good. We definitely have a continuous theme, right? The not only is it, this milling work or this machining, not only does it give a continuous personality to the knife, but it's also going to add cost to it, right? Not a lot, but a little bit. The titanium hardware is a nice touch, and the 3D milled titanium clip is also a nice touch. What I'm saying here is that much further than the simple, the value of this is present. There's stuff that I can actually hook onto, my mind can latch onto and go, this makes me feel better about paying, what they want for this, right? Versus, it better have 20 CV steel and be made of titanium, or I'm not going to feel like I got my money's worth. That's dumb. Like, I want much more than just this, like, static, like, I need to have these materials, right? So, yeah, this is a good example. The part of the reason I'm getting, fired up about this is because here lately I've been looking at some WE knives that they want the same amount of money for this knife, but there's just not a lot going on. And they have like this basic, it's just, it's a knife and it's M390 and we got a little bit of it. The handle is black, your choice of a black handle or a gray handle. You'll notice that it is just flat. We call this our endless purgatory finish. It's basically just nothing going on, an infinite sea of nothingness. And then we have a basic clip, very similar to what we do with Civivi, except we have milled holes in it. So it is a clip with holes. That's what I'm seeing, right? This is like bam and heavy metal and great. Like, it's not going to be for everybody, but there's something going on, right? It kind of, I have this emotional feeling, right? Some people are going to look at it, I don't like it, but there's enough going on that when you look at it, people remember this because it actually has an identity. And it sounds silly, right? It sounds silly when we're talking about a knife. We're talking about a knife that, like, it would be silly if I were going crazy about, something that was like $25, right? But this is an expensive knife from a company who's manufacturing it in China. So their manufacturing costs are much lower. So what I'm saying is you better bring the fire if you're going to charge us over $200 here. This knife makes me feel that fire. It looks cool. And it's functional. And a lot of that is owed to Todd Knife and Tool, who designed this. But I just like it. And I wanted to use this knife, the Roxi 3, as an example of what I am now expecting, right, as a baseline from Chinese OEMs who it's like, we got it. You've nailed down, you figured out what materials we like, right? You figured out how we like the action, right? But this, you got to bring us more. You got to bring us stuff like this if you want us to pay $200 plus, right? So, real nice. Anyways, my goodness. The pocket clip I actually think is really cool. Now, it does have it has this curvature where it curves up and over. I don't like that. I want it to curve this way and then up. Why? Because it doesn't fight your pockets as much. This, you push it into the pocket and it's straight right here, and then it curves down. So there's going to be that's what it's going to do. Rather than if it were curved upwards, it would just rise and then continues. You could just push it in. In some situations, you may have to fight it and hold your pocket and push this in. Right? Okay, whatever. The LBS disc, very similar to what Hinder does, and that's fine. This is an over travel stop as well as a stabilizer, meaning this lock bar is not going to push this way. Not just stop it from moving this way, but it's also going to stop it pushing into the frame. Then it's double protected from over travel by the fact that, is that actually the case? Let's look in there. I'm going to say that, but no, actually, the LBS disc is the only over travel. So the lock bar insert in this weird scenario is not the over travel. They actually just put the disc in. You probably didn't need to do that. You probably could just put a lip on the chip and have it. Dr. Seuss knife review. Put a lip on that lock bar insert and just have it connect to the frame. But we get the nice aesthetic of, the disc. It looks nice, right? It's kind of a nice ornament right there. So yeah, there you go. The lockup is something like 30%. No blade play, up, down, left, or right. No pivot lash, which is great. That's what I expect from WE. And nice clicky detent with perfect centering. In fact, is it perfect? Boy, yeah, okay, it looks pretty good to me. Shadows create optical illusions. Shadows can create optimal illusions if you are listing your less than perfect knife for sale and lying about its condition. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the verdict of this. So the WE Roxi 3 is really good. I really like this. And I think a lot of the reason for the crazy energy in this review is, number one, I've always found the Roxi series of knives to be aesthetically pleasing. I like this is my kind of knife, like with the, emphasis on the full grip ergonomics, which we didn't talk about too much, but the full grip ergonomics over, like the whole blade to handle ratio, which I'm not really into. Like, I want to be able to hold the thing comfortably. That's what's most important to me. I like worn cliffs. I like the holes in the blade, right? I like WE's manufacturing quality, and I like I'm a big fan of bronze, right? There's just a lot of aesthetics to this knife that I appreciate, but there's a lot of, extra machine work going on with this knife versus what WE has been bringing to the table here recently. The WE Roxi 3 is a fantastic example of what I look for, what my brain syncs up with in terms of value. It makes me feel good about spending this type of money on a knife. And again, it is not whether or not the darn thing has 20 CV or not, or M390. M390 and 20 CV are great compositions, but I want to break away. I'm going to be doing this a lot in reviews. I want to really break away from this mentality that we have all locked onto, that M390 and 20 CV are simply like they are the foundation of value, and that when a knife is using a blade steel that is perceived as lesser than that foundation, then the entire thing is not worth the money. That's a primitive way of thinking. Obviously, again, I don't want to see HCR 13 MOV on a $200 knife, but S35VN is still absolutely a premium steel and still pretty darn expensive to acquire and turn into a knife blade, right? So I don't have a problem with it at this point. Now, if the cost, obviously in the future, if the cost of the S35VN composition drops by 50%, then probably not. Probably if we're going to pay this much money, maybe we want something that will still perform exceptional or more exceptional, but be more, something that we can actually understand how the cost of that is going into the knife, right? Does that make sense? Anyways, the Roxi 3 is a recommendable knife at $223, which is what this comes in at. It's definitely high, and I know it's manufactured in China, but there's a lot going on here. This makes me feel a little bit better. Could it be a little bit less expensive? Probably. This knife could probably, it might make me feel a little bit better if it was $190 or $200, but at $223 versus the competition that's out there at the same price range, I'm pretty happy with it, and I like this knife a lot. That's going to be pretty much it. This was a weird review. Thanks again to @Bwomp43 for sending this in for me to take a look at. Very nice. This will be going in my recommended knives playlist. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I don't like, so check those out. If you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.